Hello, everyone. This is Bill Apter, and I just finished taping an episode of Count It Out with Mike and Tyler, or Tyler and Mike. They're brilliant hosts. You've got to listen. You've got to see. Count It Out. Yeah, I endorse it. They've got the After Chat seal of approval.
This is the hardcore icon, Just Incredible, and you're listening to Count It Out with Mike and Tyler. Now, that's not just the coolest, and that's not just the best. That, my friends, is just incredible.
Well, we are live, pals, and welcome to a first on Count It Out with Mike and Tyler, the Bill Apter seal of approve. Count It Out with Mike and Tyler, that is. My name is Tyler, and I am joined, as always, by the one and only Mojito Mike. What is
Big Schooner? Mike.
Schooner mug tonight. Holy. What's going on, brother? How are
you? I'm here. I'm all right, man. I'm going to start off. I got a lot of thank yous this week. I have a lot to be grateful for this week. I got a bunch of people to thank. First of all, we have two big guests on the show today. We're not doing a list today. We don't have room for the list today. And so we have two huge guests today. And so that's the first thing I want to say is thank you to our two guests.
Well, they are.
Well, our two guests, I'm sure you already know because you clicked on the link, are Butcher Vachon and Lenny Leonard. Yeah. Lenny Leonard, a third-time person on the show. This is the third time you're going to be hearing Lenny on the show. And Butcher Vachon, a legend, a true legend. The man, listen, man, the man's what, 84 years old?
Yeah.
He's battled throat cancer. He's done everything you can imagine in this business, yet he still gave us a little bit of time for this show.
That was awesome, too.
Amazing. Which brings me to the second person I need to thank this week, which is you.
Hey.
I set up this interview. I got into contact with Butcher, and unfortunately, by the time it all came along, I just couldn't pull the trigger. I wasn't able to jump on the interview, and you were there to pull my weight and to cover me, and you got the interview done, and I thank you for that, man. I'm glad we always have each other's backs on the show.
Well, I need to say thank you to you since we're thanking people, because you made all this happen. I just sat there and talked to the guy, and I always hate when we can't do the interviews together, but I think talking to an 84-year-old gentleman, it might have been better that only one of us was on this one.
Right. Which brings me to the third man I want to thank. Sneaking in the corridors and the shadows was our good friend Jonah from the Relive Recap.
Rewind Recap. Yeah, everyone fucks it up.
Yeah, Jonah helped produce this interview.
Mm-hmm.
It was difficult because Mr. Vachon doesn't do Zoom. He doesn't, you know what I mean? He doesn't know technology, and we're not great with technology anyway either.
He might know more than we do.
It took us a year to figure out Zoom, for Christ's sake. So for Jonah to jump on and help produce that segment was a big help. He was silent on the line, listening to the interview, and made sure everything ran well and then it recorded well. So thank you, Jonah.
Yeah, Jonah's the best. Get the tuxedo back on, Jonah. Let's go. Enough's enough.
Baby.
Enough's enough. And I said,
man, and even just sitting where he was, just in the shadows, he was sitting under the learning tree right there, man.
Oh yeah, and you guys will hear
is a legend in this sport,
and we're gonna hear all
about
it.
Legend in this country.
Butcher's going to talk about Andre the Giant. He's going to talk about Stu Hart. Lots of fun stuff to talk about. So
for those who don't know, because I don't know, unfortunately, I have not listened as of this recording. I haven't listened to the interview yet, so I don't know if you get to this. So I just want to explain to people, if anybody's listening to the show and they've never heard of Butcher Vachon before, I guess I'll do a quick recap, just in case you don't talk about it in the interview. This is the one of the forefathers of Canadian wrestling, 100%. This is a man, like he started wrestling in the early 60s, I want to say.
Yeah,
he got big in the 60s and 70s. Anyways, he has a very famous family, the Vachon family, with his brother, Mad Dog Vachon. I'm sure people have heard of.
WWE Hall of Famer.
Yeah, absolutely. His sister, I can't remember her name, but she was also a wrestler.
Vivian Vachon.
Vivian Vachon, thank you very much. And of course, his adopted daughter, Luna Vachon. Massive family here in Canada.
I think they had 9 kids, he said, in the family.
He's got 9 kids.
Like, he doesn't, like the Vachon, like his mother.
Vachon,
he's one of 9,
yeah. He was a pioneer in Canada, especially in the Montreal territory, of course. And a lot of things that we take for granted today wouldn't be possible, wouldn't have happened without the Vachons.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to spoil the interview, but some of the things you even told me about from the interview are just jaw-dropping.
Yeah, wait till you hear the stuff about Andre the Giant. And all I'll say about it is that the Vachons are the people that brought Andre to North America. So, and he talks all about it. It's great. But before we get to that, we're going to have Lenny Leonard on first. I will say with Lenny, we recorded this interview about 3 weeks ago. So it's not 100% up to date because obviously he couldn't spoil anything about the Hammerstein show coming up with me because nothing was announced for it when we talked. But we talk all about Hammerstein. We talked about his excitement for it, the role the company has been on.
Even at this point, they've only announced 3 matches. So
yeah, and we don't talk about Terminus either because he told me off air that he was going to be the voice of Terminus. So I didn't want to spoil that for anybody. See, we keep it together here.
That has been announced since then. But at that point, we thought we didn't know when we were going to air this episode.
Yeah.
Or air this interview. So we were respecting Lenny at the time, not talking about Terminus, of course.
But before we get to Lenny, you got some things you want to talk about. So why don't you hit us with your first one, and then we'll come back and talk about your second point after.
All right. Well, both of my things. I know we don't do the news thing very often, but 2 big news items hit this week that I think need to be talked about. So we'll start with one. This happened just a few days ago on Monday night. Well, I guess yesterday. Or Friday, someday this week.
No, let's do MLW first. Let's do MLW first.
Oh, okay.
I want to save the other one.
Sure. So the first thing we were talking about happened today, as of Tuesday. We're recording this, the 11th. It was announced just a few hours ago that Court Bauer and MLW have filed a lawsuit against WWE for basically illegal tampering, like getting involved and ruining opportunities for their company. Things like WWE executives stepping in illegally with Fox and telling them to pull their show off of the Tubi network. Them going to Vice when they were going to have a show on Vice, and they went to Vice and said, "You better not do that. Vince is going to be pissed at you." So Vice canceled the deal. These things are not allowed. You can't do stuff like that. It's not
1987 anymore, where you go to the pay-per-view companies and go, if you air Starrcade, you can't get WrestleMania.
Right. So these are major allegations. Court Bauer is coming out in full force. You and I talked off air, and you basically questioned if I think this is going to be a quick, out of court settlement, and then Court Bauer's already gets money for his company. I gave you my answer, and I'll tell the listeners my answer in a minute. But you asked me the question. You didn't tell me whether or not you believe that or not. What's your thoughts on that?
Here's my take on it. I think it's in Court Bauer's best interest to try to settle out of court. If they offer him a deal, I would take it if I were Court, because he doesn't have the finances to go against Vince. And I'm not sure if Jerry McDevitt's still representing Vince to this day, but after watching him on Dark Side of the Ring, I will never, ever want to fight Jerry McDevitt in court. The WWE's got the resources to tie this thing up, drag it on forever, bleed you dry of your finances. So, I mean, whether or not Court is right or wrong and MLW has a case here, I think is irrelevant compared to, we've seen this 1,000 times at WWE before. They just know how to get these things either thrown away, brush away, make them go away. And I think this will be the same thing.
See, I'm having a hard time with this because on one hand, I feel like I don't think Court would be doing it the way he's doing it and using the words and statements he used if he was just trying to get a payday. I think he's flat out. I honestly believe that he's trying to make a statement here.
I agree. I do agree.
He's trying. He goes. I think he thinks the little guys don't stand up to the big bully enough, and he's finally doing it. So I don't think this is about a payday. I truly don't.
Yeah.
However,
no, I'm sorry. I don't mean. I'm sorry to cut you off, Mike. I don't mean to say that I think Court's looking for a payday. I'm just saying if they offered him one, I think he should smartly take it.
And while I completely understand why you say that, I don't. On one hand, I don't know if he'll do that because I think he'll. What I meant was he's not looking for a payday. Is I don't think this is about the money for Court. I think it's about the principle, and I think he's going to ignore a payday or a settlement just to keep rubbing it and pushing it and pushing it and pushing it and make everybody see what's going on. Now, here's the problem that lies. If my theory is correct on that, there's a big problem with that. If he fights and he loses, then he loses big, not just financially, but everything he tried to prove falls to the wayside because the headlines aren't going to say what Court's accusations were anymore. They're going to say Court Bauer lost. And then all the accusations are going to follow and we're going to forget all about it by next week.
Yeah.
I mean,
it still makes Court look like a hero.
But if he settles, then what? Again, it's forgotten next week. Is there a win scenario here for the underdog?
Yes, if they get money. That's a win. I know he's not looking for it, and I think I agree with you that he's trying to make a little bit of a statement here. But
okay, I guess the question is, does it stop Vince from continuing to do shit like this to other companies?
No, God no. This is so minuscule in Vince's world. Even like what's the most is it going to cost Vince? There's no jail, like nothing's big. There's no jail time here. These right. These charges aren't big enough for that.
He's looking for compensation for what he thinks he lost, so that could be upwards towards the millions. Because
that's nothing to Vince.
Because that's a streaming deal and a TV deal with Vice.
Do you still think that's even millions though?
I don't.
It's know MLW here. You know what I mean? Is anyone paying $1 million? Like, and I'm not trying to knock MLW because
it depends. It depends on what the deals were, though. It depends on what he was going to be getting from these corporations and how long ago it was. Because let's say this happened 2 years ago. Well, that's 2 years worth of back pay.
Yeah, that's
you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's. I mean,
on the other hand, Tubi, while owned by Fox, Tubi is a free app. Tubi makes money from advertising. Tubi doesn't make money by subscriptions. You can get Tubi right now with an email address, and that's all you need. Tubi doesn't cost money, so they were basically going to be giving away their show anyways. So I don't know what Tubi would have been paying for MLW.
Yeah, I mean, let's just say on the big side, it's $2 million. Let's just throw. I'm going to make up numbers here because I don't know, right?
Yeah,
that's nothing to Vince. Write a check. See you later. Bye.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's got the money. He saved enough money this year.
100%. There's that's Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt's releases right there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what do you think?
Anyways, I wish good luck to Court because
me too. I love Court Bauer. He's great.
Yeah, I love Court Bauer. I love his company, and I like seeing a bully get what's coming to him every once in a while.
Yeah.
I've been watching a lot of Cobra Kai.
There you go. Well, I don't have a segue for that, but do you want to hear from Lenny Leonard?
Let's hear from Lenny Leonard.
All right, here we go. Here's our chat with Lenny Leonard, calling the big Hammerstein Ballroom show for GCW coming up soon. On Sunday, January 23rd, GCW is going to be running at a sold-out Hammerstein Ballroom. Joining me right now is the man who's going to be on the call for it, Lenny Leonard. Lenny, thanks for coming back to the show, man.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's always good to talk to you.
So I got to ask you right away, Hammerstein Ballroom, sold out. How excited are you for this one?
I'm really excited. With everything that's been going on in the news lately as far as independent wrestling, the gloom and doomers have been out. The indies are dead. The indies are in trouble. ROH is going away, and WWE is cutting everybody, and there isn't going to be enough places for all these people to work. And then GCW goes out there, puts the Hammerstein Ballroom on sale with 0 matches announced, Not one match has been announced, and it's sold out in less than 48 hours. It's awesome.
That's incredible. And GCW has definitely been one of the biggest stories of the year. The momentum that they built from the start of the year when Moxley first showed up all the way till the end. The little engine that could, I'm calling them right now. And something that you've got to respect is they haven't changed anything about their product. They've got their loyal fan base, and they're growing a new fan base. What do you think the big secret is with GCW right now? How are they succeeding where a lot of other people aren't able to grow their audiences?
I think it's a very similar environment to everything that I hear from my friends in AEW, in that it is very collaborative. Brett is not a my way or the highway guy. He is very open to input from everybody on the roster, whether it's Effie or Alley Catch or people coming in like Matt Cardona or Nick Gage, Joey Janela, you name it. They are very inclusive when it comes to ideas. And there's no one who couldn't speak up and offer a suggestion or an idea, something to make their program or their match better that won't get listened to. And it's very much and I think the spirit was very much captured in the video that Giancarlo did when they announced the Hammerstein show, in that it is very much an us against the world mentality. Like, they are very tight, they are very close knit, and Brett and the team, it seems to me anyway, they've got their finger on the pulse of independent wrestling fans, unlike anybody that I've seen in a very, very long time.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. The us against them thing, I like it. I don't want to compare GCW to ECW because they're totally different companies, but the respect that the company shows the fans is the exact same thing. That's why I think ECW was so loyal to their fan base.
Yeah, if they give you something, they're going to pay it off. They're going to reward you, and that's also something you see with AEW as well. If you pay attention to the product and you are invested in it, they're going to reward you for that investment. They're not going to treat you like you're an idiot or a mark for watching, and then we're going to show you one thing and then we're going to do something else just because we want to show you we're smarter than you. You see it in AEW a lot where they take little things that they may drop as part of either being the elite or other web shows that they do, and then they find a way to weave it back in, down the line as part of storylines that really rewards the people who are watching. And I think Brett and team do the same thing in a lot of ways, in that they don't promise something they're not going to deliver. And I think that's huge in building up that goodwill with folks.
Absolutely. So for me personally, I am new to GCW this year. I've gotten shown the light, as I guess you could say. My co-host Mike, who can be here right now, he's the huge GCW fan. He turned me on to them. I like a lot of stuff they do. Some of the stuff's not my cup of tea, but how would you describe GCW to someone that's never seen the product before?
It's very fan friendly, no matter what that fan may be. Now, saying fan friendly doesn't mean you're going to bring your 5-year-old to every single show, because you're going to hear some things that you don't maybe want your 5-year-old to hear. But like I said, they're going to reward you for becoming a fan. They value you as a customer. I think that I don't know if I would say there's something for everyone, but there is a lot of that, in that you can see a lot of great young talent. You're going to see a lot of guys who are mainstream talents who have been, around the block a lot. You're going to see the folks that have been the indie stalwarts for years and years and years that continue to excel in that environment. You're going to see a lot of hard-hitting action. You're going to see some blood. You're going to see some violence. You're going to see a lot of old school booking, and you're going to see an entire locker room of people that will bust their ass to give you your money's worth for 3 hours every time you watch one of their shows. You're not like, now Hammerstein's going to be a little different because New York is a commission state, right? So you're not going to see the crazy death match stuff because you're just not allowed to do it in New York. So it's going to be more of a straight wrestling show than you might get in some other GCW environments. But at its core, it's going to be a GCW show, and it's going to be exactly what you would expect: high energy, great wrestling, a lot of surprises, and maybe some young talent that you haven't been exposed to, that may turn your heads and convince you that, you know what, the indies aren't dead, and there is a next wave of guys that are out there that we just haven't seen yet.
Yeah. And you said something I really like, the variety. You get the variety. You know, if you're not a deathmatch person, well, watch a guy like AJ Gray. Well, I always call him AJ Green because I'm a Cincinnati Bengals fan, right? But, you know, he's one of the most athletic guys going right now, and he's tearing down the house in all these fantastic matches. You know, you've got the specialness of Nick Gage. Like, everything about GCW is firing all cylinders right now. What's the vibes like within the company from the people that you've been talking to? How's everyone feeling? Are they aware of the momentum that's going into Hammerstein, and how many eyes are going to be on this show?
100%, 100% aware of how big this show is and what it means, not just to GCW, but to independent wrestling in general. And I think they're proud to take that mantle of being the indie company that's hot right now, and they're not going to let it go for the foreseeable future. They're going to do everything they can to keep the momentum going and keep trying to bring new fans and new eyes on the product. And I think this show is a big indication of that. But the locker room itself is excited. They understand what this opportunity is, and they're ready to go.
And how about you from a personal standpoint? You know, getting the honor to call such a big event like this, what does that mean to you?
You know, it means a lot because I have a bit of a history with Brett, and that we've crossed paths, you know, in our careers on the indies. But I didn't work for CZW ever, which is where Brett really was at the beginning of his career. I didn't work a ton with Joey, but a little bit here and there. So I've never been quote unquote their guys, but we've always known each other and respected each other, and we've always gotten along. And the fact that they have asked me to come in and be a part of this while it's kind of getting more eyes on it, to kind of help lend whatever, you know, my skill set is to what they're doing. I appreciate that in a big way. And any chance I get to work with Dave Prazak again is always a bonus in my book. And I have a ball working with Kevin too. You know, Kevin's a high energy guy, and he has been the voice of the product for a long time. And I don't come in looking to do anything other than contribute. It's not the Lenny Leonard show. It's, you know, I'm just part of, you know, whatever they're trying to get across, and do what I can to help do that in the way that, you know, I think I'm good at. And so far it's been pretty seamless, which is a testament to Kevin. A lot of people could, you know, see me and Dave coming in as, you know, an attack against them, or, you know, kind of a slight. And Kevin doesn't look at it that way at all. Kevin is all in, with all of us being, you know, just one team, and whatever we need to do to make this show the best show it can be, Kevin's all in on that. And I respect the hell out of him for that, because it could be very easy, you know, for someone in that position's feelings to get hurt. And he has not been anything less than accommodating and welcoming, and I appreciate it.
Well, that's really good to hear. That's the teamwork, and stuff like that is what makes a company succeed. And you know, if that's the energy going into it, then this show is going to be a home run for sure. You know, you take a look at some of the names that are announced for this card so far, right? You know, you've got a guy like Eddie Kingston coming in. The Briscoe brothers are going to be there defending the tag team championships. A name that I am so excited for is Ricky Morton. I'm a huge tag team guy, a huge Rock and Roll Express fan. Have you had the opportunity to call any of Ricky's matches before?
I did. I called Ricky and Joey Janela at the Collective last year in Indianapolis, and they tore the house down.
Mm-hmm.
It was amazing. Like, he can still go when the cameras are rolling and the bell rings. You know, it's 1986 and it's the Greensboro Coliseum all over again. Rock and roll never die. And he can just get out there, and I give him a lot of credit in that he doesn't just rest on the fact that he's Ricky Morton, which a lot of older established veteran guys can do when they work indie shows. They know that they can go out there, they can coast on their name. If they hit their 2 or 3 trademark spots that everybody remembers from back in the day, the fans go home happy. But Ricky is not out to do that. He goes out there and he is wrestling a 2021 indie style match. And I give him all the credit in the world for that, because he doesn't have to do it. and he does it, and he loves it.
Oh, he's out there throwing Canadian destroyers now. It's unbelievable, the evolution of Ricky Morton. And you said it right though. When he gets out there, especially on those big shows, he's still got it. The selling is there. He knows how to draw that emotion in. How important is it to have a guy like Ricky in the locker room, even to be around these young guys and to help them through big shows like this?
I think it's enormous. I don't think you can overstate how important it is to have people who've been there. And even Eddie too, who, the last time Eddie was in New York, he was in front of 22,000 people. And now he's going to be in front of 2,000, much different environment, but it's not going to be any less rabid. And Eddie is going to be there to provide that kind of leadership to the young guys on the roster who maybe have never worked in front of a crowd that big before, or a crowd that's going to be that hot before. And it's huge to have that kind of presence in the locker room to help get people through and understand what's needed from them, not what's expected of them, but what's needed from them on a show like that, because everybody's got a part to play to help make the show the best show it can be. And it's always important to have guys who can, pull people aside and say, hey, here's what we're looking for, here's what we need, here's what you can do to deliver in your match.
And then another big name that I think has been huge for GCW this year is the current world champion, Jon Moxley. Having him come in has brought a whole new set of eyes, myself included. Like I said at the beginning of this, I'm new to the game with GCW. But when I saw Jon Moxley on Twitter was in a GCW ring going face to face with Nick Gage, I was like, holy shit, I need to see what's going on here, right? How big is it for GCW to have, I would say, one of the biggest stars in professional wrestling, not only just showing up there, but showing up there and doing what Jon has done this year? He's getting in there, death match with Gage, that great moment with Cardona where he pulled the hood off. How much credibility and do you think maybe even credit you could give to Jon for even building up to this big show at Hammerstein?
Oh, I don't think you can overstate how important Jon's been and how important Jon continues to be, whether he's going to be on this show or not. And we don't know at this point if that's going to happen with, Jon's current situation where he's, taking some time to get healthy and kind of rebuild himself. And, I'm friends with Jon and his wife, Renee, and I want nothing more than Jon to be healthy and happy for a long time once his wrestling career is over. So I think it's a huge testament to the person he is that he recognized it's time to, pull things back and take a second here to kind of get myself straightened out and make sure that I can be the husband and the father and the performer if that comes to it when the time is right for the long term. So if Jon's going to be on the show, I think it's nothing but a positive. If he's not, then you know what? Somebody else is going to step up, pick the ball up and run, because that's what GCW does. But you can't buy the amount of cachet and the amount of promotion that a guy like Jon Moxley being on your show can provide. He's one of the top stars in wrestling, period, across the world. And when you have that guy walking in your door, it immediately, creates a sense of, this is a product that's, worth watching, that this is not just some fly-by-night operation. And then to see Jon go out there and perform at the level that he's performed at and do things that, quite frankly, a guy with the number of zeros in his bank account doesn't need to be doing. It's amazing to watch, and just shows how much he loves not just pro wrestling, but he loves this style of pro wrestling. If you've read his book, which I just finished, he talks about how he loves this style of wrestling and he was built for it. And he still has it in him to want to go out there and do things like that, just like we talked about Ricky, that he doesn't need to do, and he can get by without doing it, but it's what he loves and it's what he does. So Jon is a credit to have in any company that's lucky enough to have him.
Absolutely is. And even pulling back from a more personal standpoint, I really respect that Jon has been open with what he's going through, and hopefully, the younger generation can see somebody that's a role model like Jon, who's not too proud to pull back and say, hey, listen, I need to get right now. I'm going to step away. And I hope that rubs off on the future generation as well. I really respect that. And I hope that Jon has a speedy recovery and he gets back to doing what he loves to do.
Same here. And I think we're seeing that, over the last year or so. I don't think it's been a secret that the last 2 years have been hard on everyone, everywhere. And I think it's become a lot less problematic for people to talk about, when they're struggling and being open with that. Because it's been hard. It's been hard for a lot of people, and there's no shame in telling somebody that you need help. I think it's a sign of strength. It's not a sign of weakness to do that. And I think pro wrestling has evolved a lot in that aspect to where it's not as taboo for a wrestler to come out and say, "Hey, I'm struggling and I need some help."
Mhm. Absolutely. And I like that that's becoming a thing, not just in wrestling, but in all sports too, right? You're seeing, it's not the age of the tough guy anymore where I'm going to plow through these concussions or broken bones and play. You're seeing it in the NFL, where as much as my fantasy football lineups hate seeing that IR thing there, the human being me is very happy that these guys are resting up so they can have a life after their careers are done.
Yeah, and I think hopefully wrestling continues to evolve and take bits and pieces of the rest of the quote unquote real sports world and utilize it within what they do when they're operating on a daily basis, as far as scheduling and giving guys and girls time off and giving them a chance, to rest and heal. And I think AEW has been really good about that. And the other thing they've been good at is pacing how often they use people. I saw something today actually on Twitter talking about MJF, who is 25 years old. He's one of the pillars of that company. They expect him to be a guy they build around for the next decade. He's wrestled, I believe, 14 matches in the last year.
Awesome.
Which, if you look at a guy in the 80s or 90s in WWE, in that mid-20s range, they were not wrestling 14 times a year. They're wrestling 14 times in 3 weeks or 2 weeks in a lot of cases.
Yeah, double shots on Sundays, right?
Right. So, understanding that these guys and these girls are not just your product, but they're a commodity, and you need to protect them for the good of not just them, but your business model as well.
Yeah,
You've got huge investments in a lot of these people, and you need to be able to get a return on that investment. And it's not always quantity; it should be quality.
100%. And the fact that he's only fought 14 matches this year, he's the most over heel, some would say, in professional wrestling. It's not hurting him at all. And I think it's also good to give these guys a rest because it keeps them feeling fresh. There's a lot of hours of TV that needs to be filled now. It's not like it was back in the territory days where, you come in, you do your shot for 6 months and then you head off somewhere else and you're fresh there. These guys need to find ways they're either trying to kill themselves to stay over or constantly change their gimmicks to be relevant still. I like the off time. It keeps things feeling special.
Yeah, and you're going to be there a lot of cases now for 3 to 5 years when you sign these contracts. So you have to figure out a way to stay healthy and stay over for the length of that contract to make sure that you're maximizing your value to the company, not just now, but going forward when it comes time to renegotiate and it comes time to maybe get into a bidding war. And I know people have talked about it for a while. Like Max has openly said that in 2023 there is going to be a bidding war for me, and it's going to be huge. And you know what? He's probably not wrong.
Absolutely, he is. He's definitely going to be a hot commodity. The last time we had you on the show, just while we're still on the topic of MJF here, the last time we had you on the show, it was the week that CM Punk made his return to wrestling. I just want to sidebar real quick here, just because they had that big promo battle as we record this last week. What have you thought about the return of CM Punk to professional wrestling so far? And how excited are you to see these guys go head to head every week in promo battles leading up to a match?
I think they've handled his return very, very well. They've utilized him in a bunch of different scenarios. They put him in there with a nice variety of opponents. He looks great. He sounds great. He clearly looks excited and ready to go. So a motivated CM Punk is great for any company. So I've liked what they've done with him. And honestly, I think they can keep Max and him separated physically for months and keep this going if they want to. There is no hurry to have these guys wrestle one-on-one anytime soon. Or if they do, it should probably be fairly inconclusive, because you can get a lot of mileage out of these two just talking every single week.
Yeah.
And just building that anticipation when they finally do get their hands on each other, it's going to be scary good.
I'm absolutely with you on that one. I got a laugh out of the a lot of the internet wrestling fans that have been complaining about CM Punk's return. We after 7 years, everyone's excited, and then the first match he has back, oh my god, he's wearing pants. This is terrible. Like, guys, everyone needs to relax, sit back, enjoy it. I think the journey of CM Punk has been great so far. They're not overexposing him. He's been off for 7 years, so he's working his way back up. I would be more upset if they put him in the main event picture right away and just blew his return just like that. Like, long-term storytelling it's a thing. People got to relax.
Yeah, and then they're doing the same thing with Brian. They didn't throw Brian right in there and give him a title match. Yeah, they gave him a TV main event and a draw against Omega, but it clearly looks like they're doing the slow burn for him and Adam, which I think is the smart thing to do as well. Just
Absolutely.
now they're giving Brian more matches than I think they're giving Punk, but that's what Brian, lives for and wants to do. So I think that's probably more of a personal choice than anything. But I think they've done a great job with both guys since they brought them in.
Yeah, I'm with you. To me, Brian, he's doing a lot of throwback to his 2006 Ring of Honor, which is his world title reign is one of my favorites of all time in professional wrestling. So I'm absolutely loving it. I love the pacing that they're doing there. I want to quickly just come back to the GCW Hammerstein show here, though. One last thing I want to talk about with you on it, the Indie Hall of Fame that is going on. I absolutely love this. I think it's fantastic. It's going to be on the same weekend. Your good friend Dave Prazak, who I think is absolutely deserving of being a first ballot Indie Hall of Famer for sure, is getting inducted. I'm going to assume that you've talked to Dave. How happy is he? How excited is he? And
I haven't been able to touch base with him since it's been announced, so I don't know. Now I've talked with our mutual friends, and we're all excited. But Dave has always been very self-deprecating, almost to a fault, when it comes to his career and how talented and how good he is. He doesn't usually like the back patting and the attaboys and stuff like that. So I'm sure deep down on some level he's honored by it, but I'm sure on another level he's very much just, I don't want any part of this. Just pick somebody else. I don't want to get up there and talk about this. There's somebody else you could ask. But he's very modest. But I am. If he isn't happy, there are a lot of people, more than enough, who are happy for him. That we're going to make sure that it's a great weekend for him. Because, like I tweeted about it as soon as it came up, nobody deserves it more than Dave.
Mm-hmm. You can take his commentary work or his managerial work even out of the equation. All he's done for women's wrestling, like to me, Dave is one of the biggest people that we can say thank you for the success of women's wrestling, the opportunities he's provided, all the people that he's given their breaks to. I'm so happy that he's getting the recognition. Any chance that we're gonna see you induct him at all?
I have no idea. They had TBA for the name as to who was inducting him, so I don't know what Brett has up his sleeve for that one. It hasn't been broached to me in any way, shape, or form. If they were to ask me, I'd be all for it, obviously. But I'm sure that there are a lot of people that they could pick to induct Dave, and it would be great no matter who gets to do it. So I'm just excited to see Dave get his moment, whether I'm up there with him when it happens or not.
Well, at least we'll get to see you guys the next night together. That's the Mark and me is happy about that for sure. The fanboy is happy about that. Another name going in there is someone that you've got a lot of history with as well, Homicide. And again, when you talk about Ring of Honor, which we'll get into very shortly, he's definitely, I think, one of the most unsung heroes in the company history. Ring of Homicide, he was one of the most over guys, former world champion. I'm glad he's getting his recognition as well. How happy are you to see Homicide go in there?
Super happy, because he's a guy who I don't know ever really got his due while he was at his best. I don't think enough people knew how good he was when he was at the height of his skills, and he's still great. I'm not taking anything away from Homicide now. But he and I have talked. He knows he's getting closer towards the end than he was at the beginning, and he's trying to, wind things down at some point down the line. And he's had a great little run recently again in ROH, had a tag team championship reign. in a group with Brody King and Chris Dickinson and Tony Deppen, and shout out to Chris Dickinson, who's recuperating right now for a very difficult injury he suffered out on the West Coast recently. But Homicide's a guy who he helped build Ring of Honor. He helped build Full Impact Pro down in Florida. He was integral in keeping the New York City independent scene alive and training just a host of great young independent talent over the years, and being really like the godfather of indie wrestling in New York City for a long time. So it's always great to see guys like that get their due.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And it's like a nice full circle thing for him. It's in his hometown, right? He's won the Ring of Honor world title it's the Hammerstein. I'm from Toronto, so is Hammerstein in the same area as the Manhattan? Is it the same building, different floor?
It is the same building. It's a different floor.
Oh, that's cool.
Center is the whole complex, and the Manhattan Center is the smaller of the two rooms. The Hammerstein Ballroom's the bigger room.
Oh, that night's going to be electric. January 23rd. Again, everybody, make sure you're ordering it. Fight TV, correct?
Yes, correct.
Perfect. Well, I can't wait to hear you on the call there. Again, everybody, January 23rd, Hammerstein Ballroom. Catch our friend Lenny Leonard here doing the call. Before we let you go, Lenny, let everybody know where they can find you.
Just Twitter at WWN Lenny Leonard. Still throwing back to my World Wrestling Network days. I don't do a whole lot there too much now, but it's always my home. It's where I got started, so it'll always be my Twitter handle no matter what. And you never know when I'm going to pop up back there again, either Shine or FIP or ACW, or you never know when I'm going to show up over there, or where I'm going to show up, actually, because I'm pretty much a free agent. I can go wherever I want. So.
The nice freedom, eh? Well, we love having you here, and you always have an open home to come here. It's always an honor to talk to you, and I will say that with a pun intended, of course. I hope you have so much fun at Hammerstein. We will be watching. Would love to have you back on to talk about it at some point. Have yourself a very happy holidays, happy New Year, and thanks again for joining us, Lenny.
Same to you. I appreciate it. It's always good to talk to you.
See, Mike, this is so fun for me because I know that I haven't shared these interviews with you yet. So I can sit here and go, man, that was so much fun talking to Lenny. And you don't know what the fuck he even said or was talking about it. And it's hilarious for me. But you could safely sit there and shake your head and go, yeah, Lenny was awesome, because Lenny is awesome.
Well, I already know that Lenny was awesome. Number one, I was with Lenny on the first interview. Second, I got Lenny for the first interview. So I had a nice interaction with him even before we got him. And he was a great guy. And then with the second interview for the end of year show, he was great. It was one of the best parts of the year-end show.
Yeah, well, I'll just peel the curtain back a little bit. We filmed this whole thing during that exact interview. So if you enjoyed the end of year show, then you're going to continue to enjoy Lenny. He's the best. And I can't wait to have him back on. He said he'd come back on whenever we want.
Definitely won't be the last time we'll talk to Lenny on this show. I think it'll be a regular thing.
Soon it's going to be counted out with Mike and Lenny.
And our offer stands, Lenny. If you ever want to do a podcast under the Counted Out banner, this is your own baby.
We'll find you a co-host named Carl. Lenny and Carl, The Simpsons. His name is Lenny Leonard. After this,
throw out an email to Machine Gun. See what happens.
It didn't work. Oh, there you go, Lenny and Carl. I thought my joke flopped there. I was going to go,
yeah.
Simpsons.
Our boy Rory can hook us up with Machine Gun.
I'm sure that'll happen. Great. Love you, Rory Fox, by the way. Speaking of the Machine Gun, is he somebody that we can see in the Royal Rumble? Because I know this is what you want to talk about right now.
It's definitely what I talk about. I suppose it's possible, but no,
probably
not fucking happening.
Probably anyone but him.
Yeah, let's start at the beginning. So it was announced. What was it? Was it Friday on SmackDown that it happened?
Friday on SmackDown.
That it was announced right on SmackDown that Knockouts champion Mickie James will be in the Royal Rumble. And if this took the wrestling world by storm, this was huge news on that day, because WWE has not been opening their forbidden door, whatever, if you want to use that term. So it was cool news. No matter what you're thinking about I mean, we didn't have nice things to say about WWE or Vince McMahon in our last segment. We're kind of hoping Court Bauer kicks their ass. And even if you don't like their product right now, you still have to kind of be excited about this.
Huh?
This is really cool.
Wrestling's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Are you surprised Mickey's going back?
But I'm not surprised they asked her. I'm surprised she accepted. I think they're paying her a buttload of money. Yeah.
I'm happy that she's coming back, because that was
Me
no
too.
way for someone of her caliber to leave a company.
100%. I'm glad if this is the way she gets to have her last moment in there. And they announced that I think both Trish and Lita will be there.
Was
Royal
Trish
Rumble.
too? I don't know if I saw Trish.
Oh, okay. Maybe
I saw
I'm wrong.
Lita.
At least Lita will be. Yeah. So that'll be cool to see them together if that happens. And Charlotte will be in the Rumble, so we'll probably
I
get
love
some
that.
interaction with her and Nikki. The Knockouts champion versus WWE Women's Champion in the Royal Rumble is a really cool thought.
Yeah.
So a lot of cool things could be happening here. But there's a bigger story, I suppose. There's a big rumor that the WWE is cracking open that door just a little bit wider and going to be bringing in someone else through the so-called forbidden door for the Royal Rumble. And there's a lot of question marks and a lot of speculation of what or who this could be. Nothing we're going to say right now is, I just want to throw out some ideas, but none of it, like, it could either happen or not happen. I've got no idea is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Not even the
Yeah, we're just hypothetically talking.
But one man who it could be, I suppose, already flat out said he wants it to be him, and that's Impact champion Moose.
See, I have a take on
You
this.
see him call out? You see him call out Roman Reigns?
I saw that, and I think that's a great move, because he's their world champion. I get it. I don't want to see Moose in the Royal Rumble unless he's going to win the Royal Rumble, though.
I get that.
I don't want to see the Impact World Champion get eliminated by fucking Ricochet in the Royal Rumble. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I protect your champions. I would love to see maybe Matt Cardona show up in the Royal Rumble. I think that would be fun.
I think Cardona still has bad blood, bad beef. I don't
And
think Cardona can do it.
He'd show up for a Rumble moment.
I don't know. Maybe if Chelsea was still over there, but not.
She could show up too.
She could. She very well could.
A lot of people are saying, though, that this Forbidden Doors. Actually, sorry, you got a couple names you want to throw. Keep throwing names out. And then
I got a big name just because my buddy Ray threw this at me, and I do not expect it to happen, but at all. But let's widen the door a bit, because they're saying that they've been in talks with AEW as well, doing some deals. Now, the deal that I hear they're working on is some sort of documentary project.
Yeah,
nothing to do with talent sharing. But let's say it is. Let's say there's a talent share deal in there somewhere. What's one of the main events at Royal Rumble? Who's Roman facing?
Roman is facing. Who is Roman facing? Why can't I remember? Oh, Seth Rollins.
Seth Rollins. Can you imagine if Mox showed up?
Be great.
No, it's not going to happen.
No, I don't see
imagine?
that happening.
What a moment that would be.
Here's my take: is I think people are blowing this WWE is opening the Forbidden Door thing way out of proportion. I think we're going to see Mickey James, maybe one other person in the men's. I don't know.
And it's not, and it's a one-off. This won't be a permanent thing.
I don't.
They
see
don't
it
have
going
enough.
past the Rumble.
They fired too many people. They don't have enough people for the Royal Rumble.
I don't see this going past the Royal Rumble. And if it does, I hope I'm wrong. But I just don't. Maybe it's just because of years and years of Vince not playing with others and whatever. Yeah. But I just think that this is something that they've done that's exciting and it's like I don't want to say this in a disparaging manner because this is going to sound like I'm disrespecting Mickey James, and it's not. But they're just bringing in one person from another company to have a spot in a Royal Rumble match that's not going to win.
My thought is, if there's another person in, it's not going to be from AEW. If it is from AEW, there's only one name I'm going to say that it would be, and that's Christian.
Yeah, but again, like, who cares? Like, we've seen him. I'd rather see Jungle Boy.
I'm just giving you my prediction.
Yeah, I get it. You know who'd be great to show up in the Royal Rumble? I think Jonathan Gresham should find a way to get in the Royal Rumble.
I would love that nothing more. I had this fantasy in the back of my head of Gresham showing up at NXT and challenging somebody because of he's touring this title everywhere. I would love for him to show up in WWE. It's not going to happen, but I would love it. He is Garrett with his height and his style. Vince McMahon would laugh him out of any room.
Yeah,
I hate to say it, but
1,000%, right? I mean, I don't know. I don't think we're going to see too much out of this. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm excited for it, but I'm not like, oh my God, the world is ending. Like, and at the end of the day, I just want to put this on record before we go to Mad Dog here. Scott D'Amore, and not even Scott D'Amore, Impact Wrestling / TNA Wrestling has always been the forbidden door. You want to go back to their inception. They've had a working relationship with AAA since day one. New Japan, now Ring of Honor. They had a show where it was Lucha Underground against Impact Wrestling. They work with AEW. Like, Impact Wrestling has worked with everybody. So let's tip the cap to Impact Wrestling for really,
including WWE. They've had a small bit of working relationships with them.
That's right. So, Christian came over for one of their shows. Like, they've done it all, man.
And then they
and Flair got inducted to the Hall of Fame.
Flair,
that was the trade, right?
Yeah, and they lent a bunch of TNA footage to WWE for their documentaries and for what's that show they did, the Table for Three.
Yeah,
they were showing they were showing Sting clips, Sting clips and Hardy Boy clips. Yeah.
So tip a cap there. True pioneers in the forbidden door. Just like we're about to talk to a true pioneer in the world of hardcore wrestling and striking fear into people's hearts. Mike, I got to thank you again for setting this interview up. I'm really sad that you couldn't jump on for it, but man, what an honor it was to speak to this man right here, none other than the Butcher, Paul Vachon. When you think of families in the world of wrestling in Canada, the most feared and respected name that comes to mind is Vachon. And today I have the honor to be joined by one of the legendary Vachon brothers, Paul the Butcher Vachon. Mr. Vachon, thank you so much for talking to me today.
Listen, it's a pleasure. And I want you to tell whoever's listening to this that not only I am one of the Vachons, but I'm the eldest of all the Vachons in my family now.
Oh, wow.
I used, my family had 13 kids in it, and now there's only 4 left, and I'm the eldest. So I'm the patriarch of the Vachon family now.
Oh, that's incredible. And the history behind your family, you know, if you want to talk about yourself and your brother, the Mad Dog, and Vivian and Luna, there's so much that we can talk about. And I can't wait to get some of these stories out of you today. And maybe we'd start right at the beginning. I would love to know how they started calling you the Butcher.
Well, at the real young age of 17 and a half, I had wrestled for the Canadian Championship in Regina, Saskatchewan. And on the way back, which by then the Trans-Canada had not been built, I had to travel by bus from Regina to Minneapolis and Chicago and come all the way back here. But in any case, I stopped in Chicago and I talked to my brother, Mad Dog, on the phone. I called him. He he was wrestling then in Texas, and I called him and reversed the charges. And I said, "Hey, Mad Dog," I said, I won a medal in the Canadian Championship, and I figured he'd be all excited for me and everything." He says, "Good," he says, "that's enough amateur wrestling. You'll never make money wrestling amateur." He says, "When I come back from Texas this fall," he says, "you're turning pro." And that's in the tender age of 17 and a half, I turned pro.
Wow. So your brother is the one who got you to turn pro. Did he come up with the butcher name?
Well, when we got together, he says, finally when we got together in the fall, he said, "You know what?" He said, "I went to the Olympics and everything and won the championship in New Zealand for the Empire and everything." And he says, "I never made money until they gave me the name of Mad Dog." He says, "We gotta find you some kind of animal name, you know." So I'm thinking he's gonna call me Paul the Bull or Paul the Fox or something like that. He said, "I got it." He says, "We're gonna call you Paul the Pig." And I said, "What the hell with you?" I said, "I'm not going under Paul the Pig." And then he started laughing and I started laughing.
Oh, that's so funny.
So finally, we decided that if he wanted an animal sort of name, we would call me the Butcher. You know, I mean, a butcher is someone that kills all the animals and stuff like that. So anyway, we used the Butcher, and it turned out to be good. It was a hell of a lot better than Paul the Pig.
Oh, and I mean, after that name, the rest is history. You guys went all over the world, making money, spilling blood, and making memories, right? How much fun was it? So much fun to do that with your brother too, to make it extra special for you.
It was the greatest experience in the world. I knew my brother, you know, at 4 years old, he used to do road work with me on his shoulders, and he was only 14. You know, and out of the 8 boys, and 13 kids in the family, I was the favorite of my brother Mad Dog. And he used to do road work with me on his shoulders and blah, blah, blah. And so, you know, he became my favorite. But I tell you what, he was not easy to get along with because he had been the shortest of all the brothers. Even a couple of my sisters were taller than him, and he was always fighting from behind, you know. So he was, his true personality really came out, and it suited his personality real well. You know, he worked mad dog, you know,
Well,
and that's what he was.
and you guys went all over the world, and I'd like to talk about a couple places. Can we start with Calgary? Do you guys spend some time out in Stampede Wrestling, right, with Stu Hart?
Oh yeah.
What was your time
Oh,
like in
yeah.
Calgary?
Well, actually, it was great. And then you hear that story about Stu Hart was an old time amateur wrestler, you know, and he had a gym in his basement. And him and his wife had been married like, you know, 15 years, and they had like 14 kids.
Yeah, sounds
And
familiar, right?
yeah, right, it does. Yeah, it sounds like my family. You're absolutely right. And I used to talk to his wife about my mother and my family and everything. And in any case, he had really wanted to ask for us to wrestle for him in Calgary because he was not for amateur wrestlers.
Mhm.
And he loved amateur wrestlers, but the one he liked most of all, he liked to take new guys in the territory and take them down to his basement on Sunday, you know, because when we were there, we wrestled 6 nights a week, but never on Sunday. And he liked to take the new guys and take them on the mat and put all sorts of give up holds on them and make them give up. And that's what gave him. He was a weird guy, you know.
Did you ever get
And
Did you ever get down there with Stu? Did he ever get a wrestle with you?
hey, listen, I'm the one that's telling the story, so let me finish it.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
I'm joking. So anyway, we knew what what he wanted to do. He had invited us in the gym, and we had been there, you know, working out in the gym and everything. But he invited us on a Sunday, and he said, "I want to show you my place." Blah blah blah. And he says, "I know you guys like to work out, so you go down to the gym and I'll be down there." And anyway, so Mad Dog says, he knows I'm an Olympic wrestler and a gold medalist in the British Empire. He says he's not going to want to wrestle with me. But he says he wants to wrestle with you because he thinks that you're the weakest of us both. He says, so when we hear him come down, he says, we'll wrestle one another. And he says, you be all over me. He says, don't let me get away with nothing. And we'll wrestle for about 5-6 minutes and then see what happens. But Mad Dog had him pegged right away.
Wow.
I mean,
so smart.
When the minute we heard him come down the steps, he's got his trunk, and he says, I come down to see if I can get a work on with Paul here. And Mad Dog says, well, you're going to wait a while because we're having to work out right now. And he said, in a few minutes, I'll let you have him. And then we got back to wrestling with one another, and Mad Dog let me ride him all over the place. I mean, I turned him every way but loose. You know, I had a front face lock on him, wouldn't let him go, and all that stuff. And all of a sudden, Stu's eyes went down, and he said, I hear Helen calling me, I'll be back. And he never came back, of course, and we knew.
Oh, that's so
And
smart.
after that, after that, I was all right with Stu. I mean, he would have done anything for the Vachon brothers, you know.
Oh, that's incredible to hear two legendary families like that. Such an incredible story. I recently just watched a match that you had against Bret Hart. It looked like in Maple Leaf Gardens. What was your memories about Bret? How did you think he was in the ring?
Actually, he was quite a guy. I mean, you know, he was nothing like his father. His father, when to wrestle in front of people, he could not have taken some and give some, you know, make it an even match or anything like that, make it interesting. He was against his principles, you understand?
Mm-hmm.
But Bret Hart and all the Hart boys that wrestled, they were all very good wrestlers, nothing like their dad. And they were good people, too.
Oh, that's great to
And
hear.
so was the dad. He was a hell of a man. But he was a show off to show his amateur skills, which is not what made him a millionaire, but professional wrestling.
Oh, absolutely.
Anyway, I'm judging him a bit, but
Oh, that's okay. That's
yeah.
okay. I'd like to kind of switch gears a little bit here and talk about your guys' time in the AWA. You guys were the World Tag Team Champions, you and your brother. What was it like working with Dick the Bruiser and the Crusher? Because you guys had a big match. I think it was in Chicago where you won the belts, right?
Yeah, we did. I mean, and we knew how they were, and you know, my dog says, look, he says, we'll make it clear to them that, you know, even, you know, one of them was the boss, you know. And he says, they know our reputation, and we'll make it clear to them that we're not going to be play toys for them, and consequently, they would have lousy matches with everybody, but always with us, they had terrific matches. Because we made them look good, and they made us look good, and everybody made money.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's the big goal, right?
Yeah, well, that's it. You know, that's why it's called professional wrestling.
1,000%.
That means that, you know, I keep explaining that in the largest sport, the first sport of man was running, and the second one was wrestling,
Mhm.
and it was the most widespread sport in the world. I mean, I've been to many countries where it's their national sport, wrestling, but it's all amateur wrestling. And nobody makes money at it.
Mhm.
So,
It's true.
yeah, India, Pakistan, Japan, Korea, South American countries, Brazil, and heck, many countries. And I went to wherever there was professional wrestling because I had to make money. I had to make a living, it's time. And when I had called my brother and told him I had won the Canadian medal, championship, he said, that's enough. You'll never make money wrestling amateur
Mhm.
or turning pro. And
Oh,
that's what I did. And after that, I became the promoter, and I had the largest ever wrestling territory in the world. It went from Vancouver, British Columbia, clear across Canada, all the way to Newfoundland and Labrador, and
wow.
even and the North Pole, for God's sake, we had wrestling there.
It's incredible.
So that was quite an achievement, and I I had more or less given up wrestling myself because my brother said, "Look, there ain't nobody like us that knows how to run the business." He said, well, I said, well, that's all right, man. You do it, and you know more about it than I do. He was always older than me.
Mhm.
He
Mhm.
said, no. He said, I gotta keep wrestling. He says, you be the promoter in Montreal. Because in Montreal, the promoter could not be a wrestler, too.
Is it
It was
true?
against the law, but I could wrestle everywhere else in Canada, and I did.
Oh, that's amazing.
And previous to that, I had separated with my brother in order to go to all the countries I could make a living. That's why I wrestled in Australia, New Zealand, and all the countries I've already mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely.
Israel
I heard that
and
you had a really crazy time in India. Do you have a good India story? I heard that you were causing riots over there. I was doing my research.
well, I got plenty of stories, but I mean, you ought to read the book. It's probably in the book.
I'll definitely be looking out for that. While you were a promoter, is it true that you and your brother are the ones that brought Andre the Giant over to North America for the first time?
Well, yes, absolutely. I had when I was just before I had started wrestling professional, I had been going to the wrestling matches at the Forum in Montreal, and one of the stars was Frank Valva. I was just like 14, and he was already a big star. And he had also been a big star in Europe, all over. And anyway, he was in France, and I had become the promoter in Montreal. Anyway, he called me and he says, Paul, he says, there's a Frenchman over here that's a giant. And I says, I he says, I already talked to him, and he would love to come to Canada. And I said, if you don't send for him, and if you don't want him, he says, you're nuts. And I says, what's his name? And he says his name is Andrei Rusumov. Well, I says, he's 7 foot something like that. I said, we want him, but I mean, goddamn, if we're going to name him Andrei Rusumov, because nobody's going to know that name and everything. And he says, don't worry about it. He says, we'll call him. I says, what's his first name? He says, Andre. I said, we'll call him Andre the Giant.
Oh wow! So you named
And
him.
that's, the rest of it is history. That's how he got his name.
Wow.
And he got it long distance. He was still in France. And I was in Montreal. And I became his closest friend. Because when we first got him, nobody would want to wrestle him, you know. And hell, I said I'd wrestle him. And I wrestled him everywhere except in Montreal. And then, of course, you know, the guys, they knew they couldn't beat him, but they knew they could make money.
Yeah.
So they wrestled him. And anyway, that's the story.
Wow. Did you ever have any fun nights out with Andre? You always hear that he can drink a whole lot of beer. Do you ever witness any of that?
Yeah, many times. I mean, you know, nobody would go on with him. I mean, you know, because they knew how he was. He'd never go home. And I could drink with him, and I by 5 o'clock in the morning, and in Paris and everywhere we ever went together. After that, I'd go home at 4 in the morning, and finally he'd go home too. But I have stories about the drinking and everything, but I'm getting old, and the stories escape me, and I wrote about some of them, but not mostly about his drinking. What a man he was, you know.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. He's such an incredible person and a huge part of history. I didn't
Yes,
know
he
that.
was.
I didn't know that you named him. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Well,
and I named him Andre after my brother, Andre, the baby in the family.
Oh wow. That's incredible.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I'm so happy that I'm learning this. This is incredible. You did some time with in New York there with the WWF. What was it like? Did you do with Vince Sr. or Vince Jr. or both of them?
Actually, I did it first with Senior.
How was he? Yeah.
Well, the story was we were promoting across Canada from coast to coast, and somebody came from Boston to Burlington, Vermont. We were promoting in Burlington, Vermont, you know, out of Montreal, Grand Prix Wrestling was. And the guy said, look, he says, I know you guys are successful clear across Canada, but I'm the promoter in Boston. And he says, right now I'm working with Vince McMahon. And he says, I'd like for you guys to come in and promote with you guys, you know. So I said, well, why not? I mean, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, we're I hadn't agreed with Vince McMahon for more than 2 days when I got a call. And I got a call from him. He says, Mr. Vachon, he says, I'm Vince McMahon. I'm the promoter in New York and all over the place. I said, of course, I know you, Mr. McMahon. And he says, I understand that you have been offered to go promote in Boston. And I said, yes, but, and he said, well, Mr. Vachon, the guy that offered for you to promote Boston and in those parts of the world, he said, he doesn't own it, we own it. But he said, let's not talk anymore on the phone. He said, I want you and your brother to come. We're having a big show in Boston, which is closer to Montreal, next week, and we'd like to talk business. And he says, we're already got a double main event. We'll make it a triple main event, and you guys will wrestle in the main event, and we can talk business. And that was history right there. That's what we made friends, and I was friends with Vince Sr. long before I was friends with his son. But I didn't manage because I had known him when he was just a ring announcer and a commentator for wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And his father had introduced me, and I knew him, and I knew the family, and I became personal friends with them. And the rest is history as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. I watched another fun piece of history today with involving you and Vince Jr. as well when you got married on TNT. How fun was that to do? Do you have any good stories about that? The big food fight and Captain Lou Albano and Classy Freddie Blassie were there. That was so fun. What do you remember about that?
I remember everything. I remember all the crazy stuff they did and everything. And I said to Vince, I said, are you sure you want to do it this way? He said, hell, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You're wrestling and top everywhere, blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay. And I mean, people still talk about that. And the proof is that we're talking about it now 50 years later. So anyway.
Oh, I really appreciate that, sir. And I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much, sir.
This is a great honor, sir.
And
thank you.
Next time, if there is a next time, I'll send you a bill.
Oh, you'll send me a bill. Absolutely. Well, I hope there is a next time.
Merci beaucoup et bonne chance.
The Learning Tree session is over. My God, what fantastic stories. Andre the Giant. I had no idea that he gave Andre the Giant his name. And what a cool little twist that he named him after his brother. So cool.
Man, are you okay though? I thought he was going to murder you.
That was a scary moment when he hey, I'm telling the story here. Let me tell it. I was like, oh my God. And then thank God he was just joking. What a nice man. Thank you for your time. What an honor. Probably one of the highlights.
I know they're not listening, but I want to thank everybody that helped get that along. His assistant, Frank, who dealt with me over Messenger to hook us up with Paul.
And his wife.
Paul's wonderful wife who helped us out, and of course, Mr. Vachon himself. Thank you so much. Really means a lot to this show.
Absolutely. And I think that's going to put a cap on the show this week.
Yeah, until we'll come back with a list next week, and we're in Royal Rumble season, baby.
Yeah.
We're jumping into Royal Rumble season for the next 2 shows. A couple of Royal Rumble lists.
Get your countdowns ready, because we're not doing a countdown from 10, we're doing a countdown from 7. But Royal Rumble season's always the best, man. So why don't you take us home?
Love Royal Rumble season.
Take us home, my friend.
On behalf of 2 phenomenal interviews, we've been counted out.
Cheers.